All right, Drew Haas, we got a TV celebrity on here today.
pseudo celebrity.
How do you deal with you've been on Netflix? What's like, do you feel like an identity shift now?
Man, it's funny. But you have a year before the show comes out, so you have all these like perceptions of like what things are going to be like when it comes out, and you don't know, I guess, until it actually comes out. So there's like all these questions in your mind, like what things are going to be like. I honestly don't feel any different. My day-to-day has been pretty much the same. I've been doing some podcasts, doing some interviews on TV interviews, and then like the first month and a half the show came out, it was like thousands and thousands of messages, and like I was actually miserable for like at least the first 2 weeks, because like I'm the type of person that I want to touch base with everybody. I want to at least touch everybody some way. That sounds bad. I want to like make a point of contact, basically. Yeah. Like let them know like, hey, I see your message. I let them, because those people took the time out of their day to do it. But it got to a point where thankfully I had like an elk hunting trip for like a week with the boys out in the mountains, no cell phone service. But up until that point, it was like 6 hours a day responding to messages. And I was over it. And that gave me the excuse to, I guess, not do it. And when I got back, there were so many that I couldn't keep up with that I just like left it at that. And now some of those people are like repeat messengers, like respond to a story, and then I'll see the other message, and it's perfect, because then I can kind of touch base on that, because things have slowed down now. So, but yeah, it was pretty crazy. But besides, like, I feel the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I do.
Yeah. So last year you went out to Alaska for a Netflix show called Outlast. It started airing a few months ago.
September 4th was the first 6, and then the last 2 dropped September 11th.
Okay, awesome. Can you just tell the audience what the show was all about? Like, what was expected of you?
So the show's called Outlast, and if you haven't seen the first or second season, basically takes 16 strangers, and we're not allowed to talk. We're put on this boat and shipped out into the middle of nowhere, like a 2-hour boat ride in the middle of nowhere, Southeast Alaska. Very minimal equipment, no sleeping bags the first 10 days we were out there. And you have to be a part of a team. So there's 4 teams of 4 at first. At some point in time, we could bring on a 5th. You can vote people off. You can go to other teams and steal their stuff, sabotage some of their stuff if they leave it outside their camp. You don't know how long you're going to be out there. And you have to finish as a team of 2 at least to win. Mm-hmm. And based off of the first season, we figured that there would probably be a challenge at the end. But throughout the rest of the time, it's just survival, starvation, basically. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's more mental than physical, and it's very physical, but the mental part of it's just insane.
Yeah.
But that's I guess, kind of the idea of the show, and it's not like any other survival show, in my opinion, because there's not just all these bunch of these challenges, and it's not like a game, but it is kind of a game, and it's so mental just for everybody out there. And then you got the final challenge at the end. It's survival. It's, you're sticking a bunch of strangers out there. You're making them hungry. They don't know each other. They come from all different walks of life. So you have to keep an open mind. You have to have communication. You have to work together. To problem solve together. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So you come from a small town in Texas, grew up hunting, fishing. So you have the background in being outdoors and knowing your way around. What was the experience like when the show reaches out and asks you to participate?
So it's funny. I first, and we'll get into this a little bit, I would like to start by saying that like manifestation and through prayer and stuff like that is what got me here, but we can kind of get into that later. But I did a bunch of manifesting and praying about a certain situation, a certain amount of money. I get messaged like in my hidden messages by a lady from Metal Flowers Casting. This is like in April, I believe. And she messaged me and she was like, "Hey, I love your profile. I think you would be a good fit for casting you for a survival-esque type of show." And I thought it was bullshit. So like, and I wasn't rude, but I was very blunt, I guess, to the point, because I thought it was just BS. And then she sent me another message back, and I was like, "Oh, this is legit. Like, they do a lot of the casting for Naked and Afraid." And they reached out to me to do a Mr. Beast video actually. And Mr. Beast was going to do a 100 days on a raft in the ocean with food provided. Like you had to ration your food for $100,000 if you could, for $500,000 if you could make it 100 days. Well, I got like 3 or 4 weeks into the casting process. I think there was like probably 20 of us left to finish out. And they scrapped the idea. Mr. Beast ended up doing it for a week with just his guides. You can watch the video on YouTube. But so they scrapped that. The casting company was like, hey, we like you. We're going to try to get you on something else. So a month and a half after that, they reached back out to me. They're like, hey, there's a show called Outlast on Netflix. Have you heard of it? Which I had. I just hadn't watched it yet. Would you be interested in doing it? I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So that began a 5-month long process of pulmonary exams, EKGs, blood tests. I did a 600-question psych evaluation and personality test. Interview after interview, sending in videos of the stuff that I knew how to do. And I didn't know I was actually going to be going out there until 2 weeks before we actually stepped foot.
Wow.
Actually, I'm sorry. 2 weeks before I left, it was probably 3.5 weeks before I actually stepped foot in the woods, because we were in a hotel room for 9 days with no phones, no contact. Before then, and I was actually an alternate for the show.
Oh wow.
They called me, and so I basically quit working the month before, almost 2 months before. I just stopped doing everything. I've been a recurve bow hunter. A compound bow hunter my whole life. I'd never shot a recurve bow really. And I knew from the first season that hey, I'm going to need to learn how to shoot one of these. So I went and bought one the month before. I stopped working. I started watching a ton of bushcrafting videos, survival videos. And I shot that bow 2,225 times the month before I left, every single day. I have it logged on my phone still. I shot on a slingshot over 1,000 times, because the first season they had a slingshot, which we didn't. So much so that I had fluid in my ears. Couldn't sleep at night from the tension in my neck. It was wild, man. But it paid off. I shot a bunch of squirrels out there, which you don't see on the show. But that little bit of red meat that we had out there was a huge boost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy. I think most people, when they think about a show like that, they're like, oh, you probably just get flown from Texas and go straight into it. But you were in a hotel room for 9 days before, doing interviews, doing different things.
It was one interview for those whole 9 days, and we had 30 minutes to an hour every day to either exercise or go walk around outside. And we had to have somebody with us because they did not want us. It was a very tight schedule. It was COVID regulations and stuff like that we had to go through, I think. But it was a big thing was us not seeing each other. They didn't want us seeing each other. They didn't want us hearing each other. And it was a tight ship they ran. But the mental aspect of being in a hotel room and no cell phone, you can't even contact your family. Yeah. And I didn't even know if I was I was just an alternate. I did my first interview, and again, I'm big on manifestation. I did really well with my interview. It was with one of the main producers, Mike, and I laid in my bed in that hotel room. Had nothing else to do. I laid there and just manifested they're going to knock on my door, pictured what it was going to look like, what I would feel like when they came in. And on the 7th day I was out there, 2 days before we went out, I think, I got a knock. And I was like, I felt it. And I opened the door, and it was 3 of the producers. They were like, hey, so you were an alternate for the show. We just want to let you know we're going to put you in.
Wow.
I was just And then I stood there naked in my hotel room, looking in the mirror, telling myself that I was going to win the show, over and over again. It's funny. You're by yourself, in the hotel room, and then I just pictured what it would feel like to win every day from there, and then what it would feel like to call my mom, tell my mom that I won, and you have so much your emotions and your clarity of your mind when you're that depleted. You're in ketosis the whole time you're out there. It's like you're crazy fasted, and your brain is super clear. You would think your brain wouldn't be cleared when you're starving out there, but your brain is it's so clear, you've never had clarity like that.
Yeah. What was your mindset like in those 7 days? You don't even know if you're going to be on the show, but you're out there. What's the experience like?
So it's funny. So they called me. I have a boat rental company here, and I was out on the lake in between rentals. I get a call. I'm right under Pennybacker Bridge. Beautiful day outside. I get a call, and they're like, hey, it's the casting company. And I got all excited. I was like, okay, awesome. This is it. They're like, hey, they really like you. I was like, great. And they were like, but they want to bring you out as an alternate. And it was just my world was crashing for a second, because I had spent the last months, just diving into, you don't prepare. You're preparing to fail type of deal. And I was super bummed for a second, but I had been really good about being positive about things and working on my mindset and just how I think about things. And I was upset for about 30 minutes, and I was like, damn, this really sucks. And I was like, well, how can we rethink this? You got this far. You are going to get a free trip to Alaska. They paid us $600 for our gear and stuff like that. I was like, I'm going to get a bunch of free hunting gear, which I ended up spending like $2,500.
I believe it.
Like $600 doesn't even get you a jacket and a pair of boots to go out there. But anyway, I was like, there's $600. I'm going to get a free trip to Alaska. If I don't get on the show, I'm going to extend my flight and I'll stay there and I'll get to explore Alaska. And it's going to be a great experience no matter what. So like, let's go and do this with a positive attitude. So like after like 30 minutes, I'd like made that shift, that brain shift. And yeah, and we went from there. I forgot your question already because I went in left field.
No, it was good. Yeah, I think you explained it very well. Let's talk about day one of the show. They put you into the woods. They start casting everything. Do you have this mental switch of like, now I need to go perform and survive? Was it, I'm going to make friends, or is it, I'm going, get my money and that's it?
My first initial reaction, like as soon as we stepped off the boat, I was, oh shit, it's real. And this is going to be like, you're excited. You're like, oh, this is cool. It's TV and like film crews and everything. But like you step down, like you get off the boat, like it's like the D-Day boats, I think.
Yeah.
Front of it comes down. You step off the boat and you're like, okay, like this is real shit now. Like we're going to actually have to be surviving out here, and this is probably going to be really hard. And I wasn't even prepared for how hard it was going to be. Thought I was, but that was my initial thought. But I knew we had to pick teams in, and we had to choose teams. I was the last person seated on the boat, which was good because I was the first person to be able to walk up and grab one of the axes, which meant I get to pick my team. And on the boat, we had, like I said, an hour and a half, 2 hour boat ride out there. You're not allowed to talk to anybody, so you're just looking at all these strangers that are from like 60 years old to 28 years old, 27 years old. So like you're looking at their clothes, what their clothes look like. You're having to judge a book by the cover, which is really hard to do. You're looking at I was looking at the guys' hands, how their hands look, how they look callous, they look scarred, they look like they had worn hands, like if they actually, and the type of clothes they were wearing, the looks that they had in their eyes. And there was a dude in the back of the boat, couldn't tell like much about him, but he was wearing a hat like this. He had a look in his eye, and I don't know, it sounds weird, but I was like, he just had this look in his eye, and I was like, that looks like my type of people back there. The way he was dressed, and then he was being stupid and kind of like jigging around and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, he looks like he could be serious, but he like also like he's lighthearted. And I was like, I definitely want that dude on my team. It was just weird. I was like, that was the first person. I was like, definitely want that guy on my team. And then I looked at a few other people and like, I thought, okay, don't want that person on my team. Do want this person on my team. Then you step off, and then once you're off the boat, we have the axes. We're allowed to pick. People are allowed to say 3 things about themselves. And I had already known I was going to pick Drake. He ended up being from Texas, and he's 6'7". I look like his little brother running around out there with him. Huge. He's huge. And I picked Drake. I picked Sammy. I picked Emily. And I picked everybody young because watching the first season, I knew they had like a 10 mile or 9 mile, 8 mile, whatever it was, hike after you're exhausted. And I was like, I've got to have people that can perform at the end of this thing. So I would have been fine having somebody that was older too, but I was like, I just wanted to make sure that after a month and a half, that they could still have gas in the tank. And that's why I chose my team kind of how I did. Sammy had a lot of bushcrafting experience. He'd been practicing for a decade. Emily knew a lot about the plants, knew about the tides, also teaches like bushcrafting classes and stuff like that. So that's kind of my strategy behind shit. Me and Drake are just 2 country dudes from Texas for the most part. But
that's good.
Yeah, the biggest part out there was what's between your ears though,
for
and
sure.
It's not skill set. It's crazy.
One thing that's super interesting to me is the first 10 days, no sleeping bag. And you've mentioned on different podcasts, the first 10 days, you probably got 16 hours of sleep total.
And lost 22 pounds.
Yeah. So that, like, you've been preaching the past few minutes, it's a lot of mindset, not just the physical aspect. So what is going through your mind? You're losing weight. You're not eating the foods that you're used to, or even the quantity that you're used to. You're sleeping in cold Alaska, no sleeping bag, building your own shelter. How are you mentally persevering through that?
Man, honestly, the first 10 days were minus how cold it was at night. I mean, it was miserable, and I was like not getting any sleep. Surprisingly, like my mindset was still pretty good. Like I still had like I was starting like by day 10, I was starting to like miss home, miss my family and stuff like that. I kept it plus 10 on the 9 days that we were in a hotel room. So like it was fun. We were having fun, like having Drake out there and like joking around, having like it was like the set of Step Brothers where we're like immediately we were like, did we just become best friends? Because and that's what made it fun. We were joking around. It was like being like in high school as a kid, just kind of dicking around with your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, like after I lost all my fat, that's when my mental game started to like deteriorate pretty rapidly. Like where it was like noticeably where I was just like having to like check myself daily and then towards the end minute by minute. But you know, you're also out there with strangers, you're cold. I love Emily and Sammy to death as well, but you're out there with strangers, so you're gonna butt heads sometimes. You're hungry, everybody comes from different backgrounds, so it's a lot of it's so much communication, so much teamwork. Everybody has to pull their weight. You've got to get enough firewood to burn for 12 to 15 hours depending on what time it was in the year. I think towards the end we had like 15 hours of darkness. It was a lot. You got to have enough firewood to burn all night. You have to dry the firewood before you burn it because it's wet everywhere. You're in a rainforest. Got to have enough water. Got to have somebody gathering food. We were working on the shelter for 12 days because the wind kept cutting like a knife through there at night because it just wasn't completely sealed. So it took us like 12 full days to get it like windproof.
Wow. What were you eating?
So the first thing Drake had like the Indians used to say out there when the tide is out, the table is set. And that was true. If you missed the tide or like you misread the tide or when the tide was going to be, if it was in the middle of the night and you just were too lazy to go out, you just didn't eat for the most part. But Drake, the first day we were out there, found 2 huge starfish. And they're so strong, he had to like put his foot on the rock and like peel it off. It's crazy. And then we're sitting there, we're looking at this big ass starfish and we're like, awesome, we got food. And then we're all like, does anybody know how to eat starfish? And we were like, no. So I just stabbed it with a knife a bunch of times, and it's like it felt like coral. It was hard, and it was cold out there, and it was real stiff. And we just threw it on the fire and like grilled it. Then we started cutting the arms off of it, and like just to find like this substance that looked like baby shit inside of it. It was like yellow, like a puce yellow, and just looked like baby food or like applesauce or something like that. So one of us was, I can't even remember, one of us was finally brave enough to taste it, and then it wasn't bad. So like that's what we ended up eating out of the inside of it because that's all you could eat. You couldn't chomp on anything else. And I got super sick the first 2 days. I was puking, shit my pants the second day we were out there. Like it was like in the show you hear me say, I think I just shit my pants because I definitely did. I woke up the next morning, the camera guy was like zooming in on my underwear I'd washed in the water on the limb. I was thankful that I got sick the first 2 days I was out there, because if I'd have got sick at day 10 or day 12, I was sick, like puking, and I was trying to help out. I didn't want to be lazy and just be this dude that was sick laying around the first 2 days we were out there. So I was thankful that I got sick then and not later on. But the starfish gave me terrible heartburn, and I was puking up the starfish, and it was the nastiest thing. I never want to taste a starfish again. After that, we ate day 3. I found some crabs. We started eating these are little rock crabs. We would boil them. And then maybe a week in, I realized that we needed more salt, so I started mixing our water we were boiling with half salt water, and then we were drinking the broth after we strained everything out of there. That helped. That was nice. I don't even know if it helped, but it felt like it did, and it was nice and soothing on the stomach. Like right before we went to bed, we'd lay one of our rain jackets out, and we found a metal like piece of wire grate, like chicken wire, and that's what we strained our crabs with, and we'd use our extra water cans to drink water out of and then drink our broth out of. And we'd set a raincoat down and dump all the crabs in there, and we'd all just lay around the raincoat, around the fire, and eat until they were gone. Yeah. Every night, at least one time. So we ate like once a day, but it was like straight protein. No fats, no carbs. And you're still starving. They call it rabbit starvation. Yeah. And then day 12, I started hunting, started killing squirrels. Sammy killed a mouse. We ate a mouse, slug, whatever we could find, eat grass.
Yeah, it's true survival out there.
Dude, literally you have a knife and you have a bow, some paracord, 2 tarps for the shelter, the 2 cans of water that we drank immediately because we needed the cans just for using it, a pot, a bag, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So like that's it. Some arrows.
Mm-hmm. Was quitting ever an option for you?
Oh, 100%. This is hilarious. Do you know who JP Donnell is by chance?
Mm-mm.
So he's a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
He's like one of Jocko's right-hand mans. And I met JP with my friend Brandon Harrell out of his ranch one night. I had no idea who he was. Everybody was swapping stories and stuff like that. And he's talking about this and that. And then somebody told me who he was. I was like, oh, shit. He's like one of the most decorated snipers.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
it's crazy. So I called JP before I went. I was like, hey, I can't tell you what I'm doing exactly, but this is the parameters of it. Kind of like it's team-based. I'm going to be here, there. And he was like, you have to go there with an I get to be here attitude. Mm. He's like, when I was in Buds, he was like, the whole time I was there, he was like, I went there with an I get to be here attitude. And I never thought about quitting one time. Well, turns out there's two different people because I wanted to quit real bad. Like they're just a different breed. I wanted to quit so bad towards the end. That was one of the hardest part is like wanting to quit and not wanting to be a quitter, but knowing what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. If I want to help people, I want to be on stage speaking. I want to change the world and helping people and to go through hard things and do through hard things. And like, I knew that in my mind, I was never going to be able to pursue that if I quit.
Yep.
But having a flare gun and being miserable and like being like just making excuses, like your brain's making the bitch voice in your head is just so loud. You can quit. You're mad at production for random stupid shit, and like you're like, it was harder than survival just because of certain aspects like that. And your brain is just screaming at you. You're like, I already made it this far. All these other people have quit. All I gotta do is shoot this gun, and I could be back in my hotel room, warm. I'd be laying there on the ground at night. Like towards the end, I had such bad hunger cramps for like 3 hours every night. I had fever at night, and I'd hear a plane fly over, and I'm like, there are people above me right now that have no idea that I'm on here on the ground. They're going home or wherever they're going, drinking a cocktail, eating food, relaxing, and I am dying by my own accord out here, literally dying. Like my body was eating itself. So like I wanted to quit bad. Drake wanted to quit as well. He came up to me 2 weeks in, tapped me on the shoulder, blindsided me, and was like, I'm going home. And I was like, holy shit. And I was like, no, you can't go home. He's like, I can't take it anymore. And he had 4 kids at home, 2 that he was going through the adoption process with. Drake's a great guy, by the way. Great husband, great father. Adopted his brother's kids. His brother had an addiction, took care of his kids. And he had never been away from his kids that long before. So at this point, like, we're gone for a month already with travel time and like 2 weeks in there, 9 days in the hotel room. We're gone for a month at this time. No contact. He's like, I can't take it anymore. So we sit down in the shelter, and I'm talking to him, and I was like, look, man, I know how bad I miss my family, and I'm already struggling, and I don't have kids. So I know how you're feeling, but I don't know how you're feeling. And I know it's hard to change a man's decision once he's made his mind up, because it was one of those when somebody comes and tells you something, like it's like their mind is made, like they're going. And I told him, I was like, man, I just don't want you to make a decision right now that you're going to regret for the rest of your life. And he sat there, he was quiet, 15, 30 seconds. And he goes, all right, I'll stay as long as you stay. I'm like, there we go. Let's go. And thank God he did, dude, because at that point in time, I was okay mentally. It was getting rough. I had lost all my fat, and like that's when the physical started playing on my mental really bad, because I was just exhausted. Everything that I did was exhausting. I had no energy. My legs were not under me at all. Everything, you never stop working. Everything's super hard. And, you know, he helped kind of carry me mentally towards the end. So it was just like having that camaraderie. And that, like, that's why I also commend people that are on alone. Like, I would need a full year of mental preparation alone to completely, like just to work on my mental game before I would try to do something like that. I'm a people person, man. I love to be around human beings. So having him out there and having that camaraderie with him kind of got us towards the end. But like by the end, dude, it was a minute by minute thing. Like I had a day set in my head that I wanted to leave. I was like, I'm gonna leave, and like I know what would have happened then. I'd have gone another day, and I just say one more day, and I probably, by the time we won physically, like without them medically like ejecting me, I probably had 5 days to a week left in me because I was just that wiped. I went from 173 pounds to 143 pounds.
Jeez.
Quick, man. And like I said, the first 22 pounds of that was at the first 10 or 11 days from being so cold, shivering at night and stuff like that. So that was rough.
Yeah, that's insane. I'm glad you mentioned the SEALs because I do see a lot of alignment between this and Buds of just like outlasting people and how long can you make it. And like Jocko and Goggins talk about, like, you're not looking at the entire process of, hey, I'm going to be here for a month and a half. I'm going to be in Buds for 3-4 days, whatever it is. It's taking every single minute, hour at a time and just plugging away.
If you try to think about anything outside of that, you're screwed. And like during the day, it's fine. It's it's okay because you have a job all day long. You're keeping your mind busy. Although you're reminded every step, though, at that point in time, how exhausted you are. Now, Drake and some of the other guys that were out there, like Brennan and like some of the guys that went out there with a lot of fat reserve, physically they were fine, dude. It was crazy. So if you ever go plan on doing a survival show, like literally
bulk up a little bit.
Drake calls it the everything diet. Like anything, like ice cream all day long.
Yeah.
Every meal. With every meal. Like 10 pounds, like I said, gone in 22 days. Drake lost 50 pounds, I think, while we were out there, or 45. I lost 30. But Drake still had another 20 he could have left. So he had a couple weeks of reserve left. And like, he told me physically he felt fine. It was just the mental part for him. But you start adding that physical on top of the mental, and it just wears you down quick, man.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like the SEALs and those guys, like they're a different breed.
Yeah. Were the producers ever playing mind games like, hey, quit and you can go back to the hotel?
No, nothing like that. But it was like, hey, if you were to go do this to this other team, like y'all could probably, because they know you want to go home. They're playing on your emotions, and they're playing on your integrity. If you go and do this, this isn't real life. This is the game. Like if you go steal this or go do this, it could partially cripple this team and make them want to go home sooner and this and that. And that would piss me off so bad towards the end. I was so like, it's funny because when we started, they were like, we were just going to prepare y'all. Y'all are going to hate us by the end of this. Y'all will hate us. And they had the good cop, bad cop producers out there, and they had the people that you loved, and then the guys that were like strict and like forcing stuff like that, and not forcing it, but like poking the ideas. And at this point, your brain, like I said, is looking for every reason to leave.
Yes.
And so I would get in fights with the producers and be like, I'm not fucking doing anything that's messing with my integrity. And I'll go home, I'll shoot the flare and leave before I do that. And so then your brain's like, oh, screw this. I don't have anything to prove. And then you're telling yourself like, nobody knows how much I've done out here. And like, at least I'll know. And like, thank God I didn't, you know what I mean? But your brain is just looking for it's just like when you're running or you're working out, and your brain is like, I call it your bitch voice. Like, it's just like, or the thing that tells you like not to clean your room, not to wash the dishes, things like that. That little annoying devil on your shoulder that's like, do the easy thing, the easy thing. And it gets louder and louder and louder and louder and louder, like toward the point it's like screaming at you. Because your body is like trying to protect you. It wants you to get out of there. So, yeah. It was, then on top of that, we have to abide by local law, game, fish regulations. We couldn't physically punch somebody. Like, that was a big thing. There was a bear out there. I couldn't shoot the bear. I had an arrow knocked. I was squirrel hunting 20 yards away from me. And I told the camera guy, I was like, dude, if I was home right now, I'd jump on that bear. Like, it was like a 60-pound black bear. It wasn't huge or anything. I was like, I would jump on that bear with a knife right now if he would let me. And they're like, man, I couldn't. You have to have a local Alaskan guide to be there and a tag. So, yeah.
Yeah. What was the moment where you knew, okay, I can actually win this thing? The manifestation is real. I'm going to make it to the end.
When we got the drop.
Okay.
Up until then, it was bad. My mental state was getting really bad. The not knowing when you're gonna go home, and then like all these other people, like half the game board had dropped out, and we're sitting there for, I don't know, me and Drake were there like 6 days by ourselves. Everybody else was gone. There was only one other team, and you're like, what the fuck else do you want from us? Like, what do you want from us? Like, what else do we have to prove? Like, what's going on? Like, you don't know, so you're just like, your brain's like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't know what else I can prove. And then the helicopter flies over, drops out this package saying, hey, you've got 48 hours until the final challenge. And dude, it was like the world had lifted off of my shoulders, because I wanted to quit so bad. Didn't want to be a quitter. And dude, like, the amount that I missed my family out there was worse. I tell people, like, tenfold worse than starving, worse than being weak, worse than everything.
Yeah.
Cold. I missed my family so bad it hurt. Like, it physically hurt. So getting that drop out there, dude, like, we got it, we read it, and like I sobbed. I cried so hard, and I'd been crying every day at that point in time for various reasons, especially at night. So that was a huge relief, because like it's like, you know, like, you made it. Like, I'm not gonna go. Like, I can do 2 more days. I can do 3 more days, whatever it is. But but then there's a challenge. So you like, and you don't know what the challenge is gonna be. I drop you this map, and they tell you like, hey, you get, well, then you get to the end, and then you got to start a fire with a bow drill. So it's like, you don't know what the other team's route is going to look like. They're supposed to be very equal in hardness, I guess. I guess it's not the correct word, but like length and like difficulty. But. And Drake was so worried about me. He's like, I swear. He's like, I'll carry your ass if I have to. I was like, you're not gonna have to carry me. I was like, I'll dump my adrenal gland.
Yeah.
However long. Like I know from, that's what's great about working out for so long, and like working out with my buddies. Like I was telling you, where we do the like the CrossFit style training. Like those guys push me so hard, and I'm so grateful for them. Just getting to that red line and pushing past that red line, and I knew that I could tap into that.
Yep.
Kept reassuring Drake that, and I did, and we hauled ass, dude. I talked to one of the camera guys. I was on set in Bastrop filming a Black Rifle commercial, and one of the camera guys that was on set with me in Alaska lives in Luling, and he showed up at the set that we were at in Bastrop, and it was so good to see him. And we talked about it. He was like, dude, y'all blew all the projections that they had for y'all to do that out of the water.
That's so cool.
Yeah, like we were like, so I navigated, which in the show they make it look like that's another thing pissed me off, how production twists things. Oh my God. Made it look like I didn't know how to read a compass. But anyway, I navigated, and my legs were so shot, dude, like miserably shot and skinny. But I was like, I'll navigate. You set the pace, Drake. He's huge. One of his steps is 3 of my steps, and I'm shitting you. So I knew he was going to be moving a lot faster than I was. I was like, I'll navigate. You just set the pace, and I'll tell you where to go. And so I was like, if you get 20 yards ahead of me, I'll sprint to catch up with you. And that's what we did. You get ahead of me, I'd sprint. And then like the last half mile, we ran. We just ran. Exhausted, but we ran. And I was like, there's no fucking way in hell that they're moving this fast with 5 people.
Yeah.
That are older than us. And they didn't, dude. When we just I was able to tap into that, and we crushed it.
So what was the challenge? Like, what'd you have to get to?
So we had a map. we had a satellite image of a map, and it had a blue line on it. And it was like, you got to go here through the muskeg and through a swamp. You're gonna get to a river, and then you just take the river. Once you get to the river, you take it all the way to the bay, and that's where your final challenge is gonna be. So the hardest part was like getting to the river, because we had to go through a swamp, and we kept coming across these little creeks. And on the satellite image, you couldn't tell how wide the river was. We kept coming across these creeks. That was like, okay, is this the start of a river or something like that? Does it get wider than this? So that was tough, because it was like, do we turn now? And it could have screwed us. But just like growing up at home and like knowing what a river bottom actually kind of looks like, and like seeing that things were going uphill still on the other side, it just made sense to keep going until we were going like a good downhill descent, which we did, and then we could hear the river. We finally got there, and then it was like game on from there.
Yeah.
We just hauled ass. But yeah, it was tough.
How did you keep a secret this whole time? So not only knowing, hey, I could be on the show, but then you get home from Alaska, the show's not airing for months and months.
Almost a year.
Yeah, I mean, like, we knew each other through social media. I had no idea this was going on. There was no hint. And then one day you're like, hey, I got a surprise coming. Next day you're like posting the Netflix logo. I was like, holy shit. So how did you do that?
It sucked. Drake puts it well. He's like, it's like being extremely thirsty and taking a big glass of water and drinking it and holding it in your mouth for a year and not swallowing it. Like it sucked. Cause like, you know, the memes where it's like the kid and he's like, it's like you have a secret you want to tell people. Like that's what it felt like, man. And obviously like my like immediate family knew, and like having to keep them hold the secret too. And like you just want to tell, like you're proud of yourself, man. Like you just did this thing that like, it's gonna be hard to like touch that ever again for me. That's a worry of mine too, but. And you're excited, you want to tell people, and we live in this world where we're used to like, hey, this is what I did. Like we have social media, you know what I mean? Like, hey, this is what I did, and this and that, and you want to share it with people. You're excited. So it was tough, but it was good. It was good. It got harder throughout the year because like your brain starts saying, oh, it's okay, it's getting closer. Like, but we didn't know it was coming out.
Yeah. And
that sucked too. Like they told us like, yeah, the earliest we'll have it out is by spring, and we were like, oh, cool. That's in like 4 months, 5 months. That's nothing. We get to spring. I'm like messaging Netflix. I'm like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Like, oh no, not anytime soon. I was like, and you're just waiting, and then all of a sudden, like, they call us. They're like, all right, y'all get ready. It's dropping in 28 days or 25 days, and you're like, oh shit, now it's real. It's actually happening. So yeah, it was tough. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Because they can sue you. They can take your money away. Like, we didn't get paid until August. Actually, get our money. So. That keeps you quiet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I really admire is you've been keeping this secret, and months before the show was airing, you're starting a personal development community in Austin. You're hosting like hikes and bow shooting events, and you're still running your boat rental business. You're just like, hey, I'm still Drew, right? You're not like, I'm about to come into this money. Let me just throw stuff on credit cards, and I want to be flashy now. Did you see any change in yourself when the money came in, or when you knew, hey, I'm about to walk into the most money I've ever seen?
It's so crazy, man, because I thought that I deal with anxiety, and I handle anxiety through exercise, diet, and gratitude, and like my mental time in the morning, journaling and stuff like that. I thought all that was going to go away. I'm like, I'm not going to have any more problems. I'm going to pay off all my debt. Like, that's all I was concerned with. It was like, okay, this is going to be great. I'm not going to have this anxiety anymore. Well, I get the money. It's crazy. I was literally checking my bank account because I had a lot of bills I was going to go through. And I was like, shit, do I have enough money in my account right now to pay for these bills? Like, that's been a worry of mine the last 10 years of my life, being an entrepreneur, like chasing my dreams, not wanting a 9 to 5 exactly, and like trying to break the mold. And it was hard, and it sucked so bad, and I struggled so hard. But it was back to that. Like, I was still in this point. I'm in August, checking my bank account, see if I had enough money. Had no idea we were getting paid yet, because they had like 90 days to pay us, and it had only been like 2.5 weeks. Open my account, check my account, and it was like $500 grand in there. And I was like,
that's insane.
Oh my God. And it was like, I didn't think anybody was home, so I'm like screaming, running around my house, like super excited. My cousin walks in, he's like, what's going on? I was like, I just got paid. He hugged me, we were really happy. I was like, oh my God, I gotta FaceTime Drake. So I FaceTime Drake. And I'm like, hey dude, have you checked your account? He goes, no, why? And he goes, no. No. I was like, check your account. And he looked at it, and like, we had that moment together. I have a screenshot of his face.
So
it's
cool.
Hilarious. But I thought all my problems were going to go away after that. I thought all this anxiety about money and like being worried about money, and that's something that's kind of held me back. I think attracting that same energy, like with not having money and always being worried about money. But then I get this money. I'm looking at it in my account. I'm basking in it. Did that for about an hour. Boom, paid off 20 grand of credit card debt. I was like, here we go. Let's get this weight off of our shoulder. I get all this debt paid off, and I'm still stressed out about money. Because now it's like, you can't fuck this up. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You can't go back to this being in debt. Like, how are we going to maximize this? There was no question of like, I can't wait to buy all this shit. I can't wait. It was like immediately, which I'm thankful for all the years that I've been reading books about finances. And like I, for the longest time, I'm like, I'm just spinning my fucking wheels. I'm doing all this for nothing. doing all this hard work, waking up at 5 a.m., 3 a.m., all this stuff, working on myself for nothing. But it was all for a reason, man. You can only connect those dots looking back. But it just, all of a sudden I have all this stress now of like, okay, don't fuck this up. How are you going to do this? So I hired a good CPA immediately. I went and saw her like the Monday that I got back, even before I got paid. Like last year, I got back on Thursday. Monday, I was at my CPA's office. Then I hired a financial advisor who's a good friend of mine. And it hurts because like you got 100 grand-ish in taxes.
Yeah.
I'm sticking another 100 and probably 50 into my Schwab account, which some of that's going into like a self 401k, Roth account and stuff like that. So then you've got all that money gone. And in my mind, it's like, oh, I just lost all that money. I just like that money's gone forever. When in reality, it's not. Like it's just going towards my future, and I have to keep reminding myself that. And then like I paid off, I had like 100 grand in debt, paid off that, and then you're like, okay, now I have a very like 500 grand at the end of the day is after that, like it's just not that much money. So my day to day hasn't changed.
Yep. Seems like it.
I even when I got back, I drove my 1997 F350, which I absolutely love. It's a square body. Everybody loves them. And I drove that until I got paid, and then I still drove it for another 2 months. And then just like 3 weeks ago, I bought a used 2016 F250 that I drove up in the parking lot. Paid 25 grand for it cash because I needed to go to Florida to go work. I'm still working. I'm trying to pretend like the money thing didn't happen.
Yeah.
And just kind of build on it because I'm so tired of living in fear of money.
Sure.
And I'm trying to break that mindset too.
Yeah. We hear stories all the time about people that win a lottery or someone like yourself that they win money from a show and then all of a sudden it disappears. Athletes too, millions of dollars over a few years, and then all of a sudden they're filing for bankruptcy because they didn't build that foundation. I love what you said about reading those books, and I feel the same way. Sometimes you're like, what is this doing? Like you feel like you're doing nothing.
We live in an instant gratification society now. You're on social media, you're like, oh, look at these people, they're younger than me, they're doing this, they're doing that, and like it sucks, dude. It really sucks. I feel like we live in the hardest time to be alive as far as mental goes and success. I feel like it's never been easier to be successful, but it's also never been harder to look at all the success around you and to be negative about your own situation.
Yep.
Like my buddy Brandon, for instance, I moved here, just like you said, you kind of moved here. You had a few friends here. I had a few of my friends from my hometown. I'm blessed to have some of the kids I went K through 12 with that are just animals, successful, working hard. If they're not successful yet, they're going to be successful type of guys. And I had two of my really close buddies here that they moved. And I'm like, shit, I don't have my people to push me now. Like my other people, like I'm used to being the person in my family and my friend group a lot of times that's trying to like push others around me. But I was like, okay, I don't have anybody to push that's pushing me. And I was just an associate with Brandon Harrell, with Harrell Whitetail Ranch. I've been up to his hangar a few times. He had a badass gym there and stuff. And they were doing things that I want to do in life. They were no bullshit type of guys. They're working out at 5 a.m. And I was like, hey, would you mind if I came and started working out with y'all up here? He's like, yep, you get here at 5 a.m., which is an hour from my house in the morning. So I wake up at 3:45 to go there. We work out at 5 a.m. You're allowed to come, but if we catch you skipping one rep, you get one chance. After that, you're not allowed back. You're not invited back here anymore. And I was like, great. That was 2.5 years ago now. Best decision I ever made. Like I made myself uncomfortable, surrounded myself with other guys that were doing things in their life that I knew were going to push me. They're the type of friends that'll tell you when you're fucking up. And that helped a bunch with, damn, here I go left field again. Sorry.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, like just surrounding yourself with those people too.
Yeah. It's so powerful. Like finding people, like the cliche of be the dumbest person in the room.
I remember what I was going to. So Brandon, I came to him one day, probably a year and a half, two years ago. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Back to like working hard and like you feel like you're doing nothing. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like I've been working on myself for years now, doing all the things, like journaling and the reading of books and the pushing myself to do hard things and networking and all these things. I was like, I'm still broke. I don't know exactly what I want to be doing with my life. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, dude, you're going to be one of the most successful people that I know, and you're just pulling your arrow back. I was joking. I was like, well, I'm getting tired of holding this motherfucker, dude. Like, I'm getting tired. Like, you're just spinning your wheels. He's like, you're just pulling your arrow back. And that's when I started, like, and then, like, within a few months after that, I started tapping into really getting close to my faith again with God, and then tapping in my manifestation, and then trying to figure out how to put those two and two together. And, dude, it was like, that was the missing ingredient. And shit from there that started happening was so profound that I would just break down and cry, because things were happening that, like, I couldn't deny. It just was like bam, 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 bam. I was implementing these techniques, and then things were happening, and then, like, since then, like, I go in these ebbs and flows where, like, I'm getting out of it, and I'm getting, like, I feel like I'm watching myself live my life from back here, and life's just happening to me. And then I have to ground myself back again. And I'm like, okay, what am I not doing that I was doing then? And it comes back down to that, and then having that, knowing what the purpose is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's ebbs and flows of life.
Yeah.
Do you have times like that where you just feel like you feel like you're just life's happening to you, and you're not, and you're just like in the passenger seat?
Yep.
Like, a month will go by sometime, and I'm like, I have to, like, figure out, like, what is going on right now.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think so many people can, whether it's, you know, going into debt, if it's losing a job, or being around the wrong people, friendships, relationships, and you just feel like I'm meant for something better, but, like, I'm not there. And it's so hard to keep going. It's so hard not to say, like, whatever, I'm just going to go get the 9 to 5. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to put down the book and just go to what society pushes me to, and not pursue my God-given gifts and my true passion and purpose in life.
Have you read the book, The Alchemist?
Yes, I have.
I just finished it on the way here.
Okay, yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
For someone in that situation, like, going through the motions of bettering yourself and not having that instant gratification of, hey, I'm getting more successful immediately. You talk about manifestation and prayer. What advice would you give someone who's in that situation? Like, what really put it together for you that's like, this is actually working now?
So start with this. God and the universe are conspiring for you, not against you. And they're conspiring for the people that are chasing those dreams. And even though it seems things might be really hard and things are not going for you, those are just lessons that is teaching you that you need to know. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards and looking at the struggles you went through and why you had to learn that lesson. So just know that you are just being taught lessons that you need to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. And I know it sucks. I know, like, I think Einstein or somebody has a quote that says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. But a lot of that stuff is repetitive, like going to the gym and doing these things. But, like, it's continuously through doing those same things, improving through those same things, and figuring out what works and what doesn't work for you. But man, the tying in the manifestation and the prayer part of it was just such a big thing to me. And there's a specific way you got to do it. And everything's vibrations, and you gotta get relaxed. You gotta before you start asking for things, you have to be grateful for what you have and what you have had in the past, and get into that mindset and, like, of feeling good for what you have and like the experience that you have. And that's what I do. And I do it. I sit down, I completely relax my body. And then I think about a time where I was really proud of myself, where I was really happy, where I think about all the things that I'm super grateful for. And, like, that raises your vibration, because you're feeling good. And then you take where you want to go in life and what you want, and envision it as you have it right now, and tie that feeling to it. And that's what opens the floodgates. And then things just start happening. That's what did it for me, at least. Yeah. But it's hard. I know. Spinning those wheels and feeling like you're going nowhere. We're all on our own timelines, basically. Like the comparison is the thief of joy type of thing.
100%.
Yeah.
You mentioned getting around people that were succeeding and excelling in life to draw some inspiration from them. You're now in a position that you've experienced some success. You have great stories, and you mentioned you want to give back through speaking, and you're starting a podcast. What for you is now the ultimate goal of inspiring people, pushing them to become better?
I get so much enjoyment out of helping people. And I have for a really long time, and I kind of fell away from that, and I still fall away from it sometimes, where I feel like I'm focused on myself too much, and that's when I'm in these really low places where I'm like focusing on like my problems instead of helping other people. That's when I find that I'm the most unhappy, and I feel like I'm just sitting in that passenger seat. So, man, my idea of like success for me would be like being on stage, helping thousands of people, and then being on one-on-one with people, helping people. I had a mom reach out to, or a friend of a mom reach out to me from a small town kind of where I'm from last week. Was like, hey, my friend's got this 17-year-old kid. He's suicidal. His dad passed away from suicide when he was 7 or 8 years old. He's getting bullied in school. Would you talk to him? I watched your podcast with Sacred, and would you talk to him? I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And like at this point in time, like I've never done anything like that. And I just had this conversation with this kid yesterday. I think being in a position where you have those life experiences, like I've dealt with some suicide in my family and things like that, and being able to help those people once your cup is full, kind of fill their cup. I had a great conversation with this kid yesterday. And I hope, like, you don't know, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know if you're helping those people, and hopefully you are, but like, I just feel like if you can at least give that person your energy and your time and be genuine and giving what you have to them in a positive way, or that energy, like, I just feel like everything in life is energy, man.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not every, like I told him yesterday, you know, I said, I know I'm dumping a lot of information on you right now because I've had 10 years of life to teach me all this shit.
Yep. And
I've figured out what works and what doesn't work for me. So take all this information I'm giving you right now and take the things that speak to you and throw away the rest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like reading a book, dude. I was like, I've read hundreds of books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember shit from a bunch of them, but there's that one sentence in that book that sticks with you the rest of your life, and let that be some of this conversation. And if you can give people little pieces of yourself that, like, even if it's one little thing that helps them like that, man, like that's a win for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. One thing that could derail people from giving back like that is negativity and hate. And I'm so glad it didn't derail you, because you were posting messages after the show started airing, people saying different things about you.
Oh man, I got, like, because of the edit, the way, like, especially with the whole Sammy thing and like making it look like he was still there when we got our 48-hour drop and stuff like that. Dude, I caught so much hate.
Yeah.
I just killed him with kindness.
Yeah.
And like, those people don't know me. And like, if you're taking the time out of your day to Google my name, because our handles were not on Instagram, to Google my name, find my Instagram, to come to my page and post 10, 12 negative comments, then message me to tell me to kill myself, like, you've got a problem with yourself. Like, and like, I know the people that know me, and I know myself, and it was tough. I mean, it was tough. Like, reading that, like, it's a big hit on your ego for sure, because you portray yourself a certain way, and no matter what, you want other people to portray you a certain way. So when they hit you with that negativity, one, it's a humbling thing. It's probably a good thing for your ego to, like, know, like, hey, like, you're gonna have people that aren't gonna like you too, but the only way that I knew how to deal with it was just be kind back to them.
Yeah. I mean, in that situation, you're in top of the world. You just walking into the most money you've ever seen in your life. Yep. You won a show, you've been on Netflix, like, people around the world are seeing this, and you're thinking this is going to be great. Yeah. And then it's starting to air, and you're telling friends and family to watch this, telling social media, and a message comes in. So was that ever like a moment of, hey, I got to do some work and really, like, get past this? Or is it, hey, I'm really confident in myself and it doesn't bother me?
I'm pretty confident in myself, but it was like it was the late at night looking at the comments before bed, and then waking up first thing and then, like, seeing them. That was the worst. And the worst thing is, like, not being able to defend yourself properly because of NDAs and stuff like that. You can't just say, hey, this is what went down. Like,
yeah.
And they made it look like we were just, if you watch me in this podcast right now and you watch the show, how I was portrayed in the show, and like how shallow my character looks in the show, like, you'd never guess that these two people are the same people. And again, me and Drake were out there having fun, and they caught a lot of that on camera. Like, you have to realize that there's 700 hours of film out there and audio. Yeah. While we're sleeping, there's cameras in our tent, There's a camera crew there during the day. There's 700 hours for them to take
what they want
and to make you look how they want. How they made Delta look wholesome and like how they had all this growth through their story. They could have done the same thing for us. Like I repeated a million times out there. I don't even know who I was before this. I learned so much about myself while I was out there through going through that, and cried so much and had all these different emotions. But all they put on there was us acting like jackasses a bunch of times. They just looked like two dummies from Texas. But with that being said, like our bond like that and acting goofy and stuff like that is what got us through it for the most part. But yeah, it's tough, man, because like you watch it, like even I watch the show, like obviously I'm probably judging myself harder than most people are. I'm watching it and I'm like, I look like a dickhead here. They took audio from this day and put it on this day. They made it look like I was talking, cut it off my face. My voice is still talking.
Interesting.
And I'm saying something from a different day, but they're making it sound like I'm talking shit about somebody right now. This and that. And like it's so funny. Like they cut, my sinuses were terrible out there. We were sleeping in a hut with a fire with smoke in it every night. So they were wrecked.
Yeah.
I was constantly spitting. We're all talking to Delta one day, and like it keeps cutting to me spitting on the ground when people are talking. It looks like I'm disrespecting them by spitting. I'm like, and I got messages about that. Like people are nitpicking you, but like, it's so weird. And I have to say, like, until you have experienced something like that and been on a show and know how everything actually went down, and then how you saw the edit, you don't judge somebody. Yes. Because they can manufacture so much stuff through the edit. Like the survival aspect of it was so real, and everything was so unfiltered out there. None of it was scripted, and like at times it looks like it is, but it's not. But it's the way that things are edited. Like they have so much footage and time to edit. Like they could have made 20 shows with the amount of footage out there. And they could have made it look a million different ways too. Like I tell people, what you see on the 8 hours that you see on the show does not even scratch the surface of the hardships and stuff that we went through out there. Yeah. And the growth that we had. Holy shit. Insane.
And that judgment is biblical too. I mean, it says in scripture that something along the lines of, before you judge someone for a splinter in their eye, look at yourself and you might have a plank in your eye, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of times we cast our own internal battles and insecurities.
Reflection.
Yeah. Other people, you're like...
projecting, that's what it's called.
Exactly. What's wrong with this person? And you actually look at yourself in the mirror like, oh, well, I got some stuff to work on.
For sure. And that's why I had this conversation with this kid that I was with yesterday. I was like, man, I know this is the cliche bullshit that you always hit, but I was like, the kids that are casting stones are casting them from a glass house. They're not happy with themselves, and I was like, you just got to make it. You just got to make it through high school, kid. And I was like, dude, your mom's probably gonna hate me for telling you this, but I was like, because when you're from a small town, man, like you have such a small pool of people to work with, like, and if you didn't grow up there, which this kid did, and he's moved 4 times over the years, if you didn't grow up there, like, people seem to form into the same category in small towns. Like a lot of them are the same. There's not a lot of diversity and stuff like that. I was like, I promise you, when you move out of this small town, you're going to find your people. I was like, dude, if you're that miserable and people are picking, I was like, drop out of school. Don't drop out of school. Get your GED, go home and get homeschooled. And he was like, we're already in the process. Next semester I'm doing it. I was like, that's beautiful, man. I was like, you're so close to Austin. Get your driver's license. I was like, there's so many people in Austin. I was like, and like he's into art and video games and computer and stuff like that. I was like, dude, you live next to one of the greatest cities for that. And I was like, find a 2-week course where there's people your age, a teen group. And I was like, you will find your people. I was like, I'm so excited for you, for what you have in the future of your life. I was like, but just, you got to get through this hard time.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You've been through a ton of growth, especially during the show, but even before that, going through personal development. A lot of good lessons and takeaways. So I want to ask you, how do you define success today?
Being happy, man. If you're happy and you're growing, or trying to get to that point to be happy. Because you're not always happy. But if you can get to a point, like, happiness is success for me. Like, and being happy what you're doing. I have not always had the most money. I've been very unhappy at times because of money, but like in a whole, I think striving for happiness and chasing your personal legend and chasing your dreams, and like that's success to me. I don't think having $1 billion is success, having millions of dollars is success. I think chasing what you love to do and following the things that you love to do is success for me. Like if you can break the mold and break the matrix of like, you have to be this certain way, That's success.
Mm-hmm. Very well said.
Yeah.
What is something you believe in that most people disagree with?
So most people disagree with. Doing hardship makes you better. Like that might not be something that everybody disagrees with, but like doing the shit you don't want to do is the things you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
As bad as that sounds, like, am I perfect? Do I always do the shit that I need to be doing? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But working towards that is it's like Jocko says, discipline equals freedom.
Yep. 100%. Last question for you. For someone listening to this that say their mid-20s, they want success in their life. They're not around the right environment, the right people. They don't know where to go, what actions to take. What advice would you give that person?
Start distancing yourself from the people that are not also in a growth stage and that are not growing, and get around people that are. Get around people that will push you, that'll tell you when you're not doing the correct things, like when you're being a piece of shit, when you're being lazy. Get around those are the people that make you uncomfortable sometimes. That it might be uncomfortable even reaching out to them. Like, they're out there. Those people, like, and they're willing to help.
Yeah.
Find those people and distance yourself from the other people that are not serving you in that way.
That's so good. Well, Drew, super proud of everything you've been achieving, and everything you're striving for now. You're not letting the show or the money define you, and it's so clear in how you carry yourself and what you're speaking about. There's a ton of value for the audience. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. It was great finally meeting you.
Of course, likewise.